Hello everyone, my name is Spencer. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Microgreen Manager. I'm also the software engineer behind Microgreen Manager. So I'm the one who's created everything you see on screen, all the front-end code, back-end code, everything is written by me. And that's with the help of my brother, Garrett, who's the other co-founder of Microgreen Manager. And Garrett's a successful microgreen farmer. He created and runs his own farm called Piedmont Microgreens out of Durham, North Carolina, where he grows about 400 trays per week for dozens of restaurant and other wholesale clients. So today we're going to give you a quick overview of how Microgreen Manager works and how you can get started. So here you see we're on the crops page, and we can get started by creating some crops. So you can create new crops from scratch, you can import crops, or let's add some default crops. So Microgreen Manager comes with dozens of default crops preloaded, and you can import these if you want. And these are the crops that Garrett grows in his farm, and this uses the parameters that he uses to grow these crops. So for now, let's just select broccoli and cilantro. And there you have, we have all our crops now on this page. And you can always come back here to see all your crops. Now let's click into one of these crops and see some details. So you see we have a bunch of information, and I'm just going to highlight a few of these fields today. First, we have the total grow time, which is the amount of time it takes from the very first step, which is usually soaking or planting, to the very last step of harvesting. And the software will use this when you create orders, which we'll get to determine when tasks should happen, depending on your order date. And then we have the yield per tray, which is, in this case, 6.5 ounces per tray. It can be ounces or grams. And that, along with the safety margin, is how the software will automatically calculate how many trays you need for all your orders. So I'll use the expected yield, and then the safety margin, which is a percentage of just a little bit extra. So if you want to have 10% extra, grow 10% extra just in case you lose some or something happens during the growing process, you can add that here. Then you also see we have container sizes. You can add custom containers to your crops if you sell by containers. And then we have the actual growing steps in the grow cycle for each of your crops. So in this case, we have our first step of plant and then put under weighted germination. That's the first step. It happens on day 0. Then we keep it there for 3 days before on day 3 we move it to under lights. Keep it there for 7 more days before we harvest it finally on day 10. And that's kind of the simple steps to grow this crop. And you can always edit, of course, you can always edit everything in the crop. Now we also have blends. You can create blends from your crops, but we're not going to go over that today. Now let's go to recurring orders. Next, we want to start creating recurring orders for our customers. Create a new order. And so we have the customer name. Let's just make it Garrett. You can create one-off orders or recurring orders. You can set an end date if you want, but for now we're going to keep this to recur forever. Then we have the start date, which is not to be confused with the order date. This is just when you're going to start delivering this order on a regular basis to your customer, and it's almost always going to be the current date when you're getting started. Then we have the frequency. You can say every day of the week. If you're more advanced, you can say every other week or every 3 weeks, but for now we're just going to stick with every day of the week. And in this case, let's set it to Friday. Then we're going to add our crops and blends. So let's add broccoli, and you'll see we can add a number of grams or a number of ounces or a number of trays or a number of containers that we've predefined. So in this case, let's select 3 8-ounce containers of broccoli. We'll add some cilantro to this order, and let's make it 12 2-ounce containers of cilantro. And then you'll see before we press submit, we'll see that the software is going to tell us what upcoming orders it's going to be creating for us automatically. In this case, you'll see it's every Friday, which is correct. And then it's also going to automatically calculate the trays needed based on the yield per tray and safety margin for each of the crops in the order and show here. So we can confirm, yep, that looks right. I want 3.69 trays. That's the amount of trays needed to get the output that we need, the 3 8-ounce containers. And let's go ahead and create it. So boom, now you can see we have all our recurring orders here on the recurring orders page. And let's click into the first one to see more details. So most of the things here are going to be very self-explanatory. We have the start date, the lead time, the customer. We have our pack list. And then we have the child orders, which are the individual instances of this recurring order on those specific dates that we care about. You can kind of think of a recurring order as kind of a template that Microgreen Manager is going to use to create new orders over time for this customer. So let's go ahead and click on one of these orders. Well, before we move on, you'll see that up here in the options, you can always edit things, pause, clone, delete, etc. You can explore that on your own. Now let's go ahead and click into one of the child orders. So this is the page for an individual order, and we can see more details here, like the status, it's currently in progress, the delivery date, the total number of trays across all crops, the customer. Then we have our pack list, a nice little grow timeline. We have our harvests, which we'll come back to, and then we have our plantings and tasks. And this is really where the software is automatically handling a lot of things for us. It's taking the crop's parameters to create plantings, which represent the trays that we need for each of the crops in this order. And then we have the tasks, which the software is using the order date and the grow time and the steps that we went over to determine what tasks to create automatically and to determine what date those tasks need to happen on in order to be ready in time for our order. And of course, you can always come up to the top and edit individual order items. You can cancel orders. You can, if you want to add more plantings to it, clone it, edit things, etc. Great. Now let's go to the orders page. And this just shows that we can always come here to see all the orders in our farm. That includes orders created automatically from recurring orders, or orders that you may create that are one-off orders for samplers or testing, or maybe new customers that you're just getting started with. So we can also filter by customer, filter by status, and filter by the date. Now let's go to the tasks page. And you'll see we have something very similar where we can see all the tasks in our farm, regardless of what order it's for, or if it's from a recurring task, etc. You can always filter by name, status, crop, and the task's date. And then we can also have these shortcuts. We have these shortcut buttons for completing tasks, which is the primary way you're going to be handling the software and the tasks on a day-to-day basis. So let's go ahead and say we completed this task and click here. And you'll see it's grayed out to indicate that it's completed. And we can also click into these tasks to see more information. So let's click on the next task and see what we find. So we have the task's name, the crop that it's for, the number of trays, and then if it's a task that's for planting, it'll also calculate the seed that you're going to need based on the crop's sowing density. We have the task's date and then the status. And then we have the orders. So if you ever see a task and you're not sure what orders it's for, you can always click into the task and see the orders that it's meant for, these trays are for. So in this case, it's very simple. We just have one order. It's for Garrett, and it's for 5.05 trays. You see the breakdown by tray. Now you'll notice that in this case we have 5.05 trays here, but 6 trays up here. And that's because the software is automatically rounding up when you're handling trays, like planting them and harvesting them, because we assume that nobody is planting partial trays. We assume that you're not going to be planting exactly 5.05 trays. You're going to be planting full trays, the full amount of trays that you need to fulfill the orders, and you're not going to be planting partial trays. So automatically round up here. Now we also have the task where we can edit the notes. We can change the task date if something changes temporarily. And then we can also mark it complete. So let's mark it complete and see what happens. Now we see the task has been updated automatically. It automatically records who completed the task, when it was completed, and then you also see that it has added this surplus column, this surplus row, to indicate that part of these 6 trays is not assigned to any order, and therefore it can be considered surplus. But that's something for another time. Okay, so let's go to the dashboard real quick. Now, dashboard is going to be a summary of the things that we think are going to be important to you on a day-to-day basis. Once you get set up, this is probably where you're going to spend most of your time, completing tasks and looking at things coming up. So we have today's tasks. We have the next 7 days tasks. We have a nice little summary of the amount of seed and number of trays you're going to need for planting coming up, and so you can see a breakdown there. We have the next harvest coming up, orders coming up. We have our tasks that were completed today, And then we have our overdue tasks, which are just tasks that should have been completed in the past. They have a task date in the past, but they haven't been completed yet. So let's just go ahead and complete those. And these ones right now are coming from those orders we just created that are coming up very soon. So let's go ahead and mark those complete, and you'll see they automatically show up now in the tasks completed today section. Now let's go to our harvests. On the harvest page, you're going to see all your upcoming harvests. So let's go to the first one. Click here, and we'll see that we have a nice harvest summary. So this page is meant to be where you go on harvest day to get a summary of everything you need to harvest, how much you need to harvest, etc. More information like that. So you see here we have our first crop broccoli. We need to harvest 4 trays today. We're expecting to yield 26 ounces, and 24 of those ounces are meant for orders. So those are assigned to orders, and that's the amount that we need to fulfill all of our orders that's being harvested today. And then the leftover is considered surplus that you can do whatever you want with. And then you also see a breakdown by the packaging that you're going to need. So in this case, it's very simple. We just need 3 8-ounce containers. If you click into it, you'll see a breakdown by the order. Again, in this case, it's very simple. But if you have lots of different orders, it will summarize it very nicely here. Then you'll scroll down, we see the next crop. And if you have blends, they will also show up here with nice little summaries and packaging summaries. And then we have our pack list, and that's everything you need to pack that's being harvested today, broken down by order. And so that's very simple. So that's a very quick overview of how Microgreen Manager works. Now what you can do is go to your account page, and if you want, what you can do is you can experiment with the software, create your crops, add some orders, move things around, kind of get a feel for how things work and make sure everything is lining up to how you expect. And then if you want to, you can come here and reset everything to kind of start from scratch after you're done experimenting and learning how the software works. So you can just click here, and very easily you can delete everything. It'll keep your account, but just delete all of your data that you entered. Or if you want to keep your crops and delete everything else, you can unselect that and select these 3, and then enter your name to confirm. This is completely irreversible. Press submit, and then we will have now cleared almost all of our farm data. So if we go to our recurring orders, you see those have been deleted. If we go to our crops, those have remained intact. Now we recommend that you follow us on Facebook and Instagram. That's where we post short form videos with new updates about the software and new features, and we're constantly adding new features. And if you ever have any questions, or if you're confused about anything, or you have any feedback or feature requests, we really encourage you to reach out to us. You can direct message us on Facebook or on Instagram, or you can email us directly, or you can reach out using this contact form. Either way, we're super friendly. We would love to hear from you, and we respond very, very quickly. So anything you need, just ask, and we'll respond as quickly as we can. And that's it. So we hope you like Microgreen Manager, and let us know what you think.